It's looking as if Disney is wanting to expand upon their iconic animated properties even more with sequels to their live-action adaptations. A sequel to the technically animated but visually live-action Lion King was recently announced to be directed by Moonlight director Barry Jenkins. A sequel to 2019's Aladdin is also in the works. Beauty and the Beast is getting a Disney Plus spin-off show. A Mulan sequel was allegedly being planned when the film was still set for a theatrical release, but then it was put on Disney Plus for $30 and flopped, so I don't know if that sequel will ever come to fruition. A Jungle Book sequel was also in the works, but we haven't had an update on that one in a while. And there were already sequels to Maleficent and Alice in Wonderland, but Maleficent and Alice in Wonderland weren't adaptations of the animated films, so I don't count them. But out of all these Disney live-action adaptations, the one I would want to see get a sequel the most is 2015's Cinderella, which was the first of the modern live-action films to be a straightforward adaptation of the animation and kick-started the trend of being faithful rather than reconstructive. But since it was the first of its kind, it still was trying to figure out the blueprint for the live-action movies, so it didn't incorporate any of the animated film's music, except for in the end credits, and a lot of the iconic imagery was disregarded. But despite me missing those elements, especially when the Lavender's Blue song that Ella sings could have easily been replaced with A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes, it's one of the most beautiful, magical films I've ever seen and definitely brings the enchanting spirit of the animated film to life, but in a more nuanced, more complex, less impressionistic way. And it's probably my favorite of the live-action adaptations. Lily James encompasses the warmth, the charm, and the grace of Cinderella perfectly. And the always brilliant Cate Blanchett is the perfect antithesis to that as the wicked stepmother. Though I do miss her grey hair, which could have really given her that Miranda Priestley edge. These two and the rest of the cast are so great, and I would kill to see them return in a sequel, especially because a sequel could correct some of my nitpicks with the first film, as well as expand upon and celebrate the legacy of Cinderella in a way that isn't limited within the boundaries of the original story that we all know, because now that the 2015 movie already got through the objective of establishing the story in live action, the sequel could go anywhere and give us nostalgia while taking the characters and story to exciting new places. I want to see these iconic characters in an all-new film with an all-new story, and I finally want to see the misunderstood character of Cinderella really showcase how badass she truly is. Over the years, she's gotten the reputation of being a passive character who just takes abuse and waits around for a prince to save her. And while that case could be made for Snow White or Aurora, it's just not true within the context of the actual movie of Cinderella. Not only is she the victim of physical, emotional, and psychological abuse who has been under the authority of her wicked stepmother ever since she was a child, she doesn't know life outside of her crappy situation, and she can't just leave, because where would she go? How would she survive? She's enduring the suffering and the hard work so that she can simply survive and have a place to live. If she doesn't do as she's told, she ends up on the streets or worse. And she doesn't just take the abuse with a smile on her face. She gets mad, she talks back, she's spunky, but she knows she can only take the spunk so far in her circumstances. But she has hope that one day there will be a light at the end of the tunnel, that one day there will be an opportunity for her to have a better life. She wasn't ever waiting around for a prince, she just wanted a night off, but it ended up being her opportunity for a better life. And once she saw that opportunity, she kicked and screamed and tried to claw her way out of the attic to get it. But in the live-action movie, she just accepted her fate and sang. And her stepmother didn't come into her life until she was an adult. And she claims that she can leave, but she doesn't want to because she wants to look over her parents' house, even though she leaves in the end anyways. In an attempt to make a more strong, progressive Cinderella, she ends up being more passive than the animated character, so a sequel could really bring that spunk to the forefront and give us some epic things to do. I'd love if Kenneth Branagh came back to direct because he made such a beautiful film the first time. But Hopefully, Disney would give him a few guidelines to stay true to the iconography of the animated movie, like incorporate some of the music into the movie. It doesn't have to be a musical, but it still can be woven in there, like if in the story Ella and Kit had a child, and Ella sang "A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes" to them as a lullaby, or at a royal celebration, Ella and Kit dance while a singer performs "So This Is Love" alongside the orchestra, or the music could just be woven into the musical score. If Kenneth Branagh doesn't return to direct, I think Nia DaCosta would be an interesting choice. She worked with Lily James in Little Woods. Her new Candyman movie looks visually stunning, thematically rich, artful, and still respectful of the iconography of the original Candyman. And she's also directing Captain Marvel too, so I'd love to see what she'd bring to Cinderella. A good contender would also be Autumn Day Wilde, who directed the visually delicious new Emma adaptation. Ol Parker, director of Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, which also has Lily James in it, would also be a good choice. Or if Disney wanted to dive into the dazzling old Hollywood vibe, they could get Damien Chazelle, director of La La Land. But they have to bring back Sandy Powell to do the costumes because they brought so much personality to the first film. As far as story goes, they could go any route where they feel creatively charged to go, but I'd prefer a more grand, epic, cinematic, dangerous turn for the story. I think it could be really interesting if they actually took inspiration from what is perhaps the only good straight-to-DVD Disney sequel, Cinderella 3: A Twist in Time, which revolves around Lady Tremaine getting a hold of the fairy godmother's wand and turning back time to reverse Cinderella's happily ever after and make it to where the glass slipper fits Anastasia instead. This is actually really intriguing, and I'd love to see where a live-action film could go with a similar concept. Imagine Lady Tremaine and her daughters living in a small cottage in the forest ever since they were banned from the kingdom. Lady Tremaine is broken, she's devastated, her hair has turned grey like the animated characters, and she's thirsty for vengeance. One night, Ella and Kit have a huge birthday celebration in the castle for their daughter, and Lady Tremaine sneaks into the castle to seek justice for herself and her daughters. She sees the fairy godmother in one of the rooms decorating with magic, and when the fairy godmother goes out on the balcony, leaving her wand in the room, Lady Tremaine gets a hold of it and turns the fairy godmother to stone. Ella walks in on this and tells Lady Tremaine she's not welcome because she's forbidden from the kingdom. The two have a fight over the wand, but Lady Tremaine wins and alters reality to make it to where the slipper had fit Anastasia, who is now married to Kit and has a child with him. And the only ones who know the truth are Lady Tremaine, Anastasia, Drizella, and Cinderella. Cinderella is banished to work as a servant on an island, but the stakes are high to reverse the spell and get both Kit and her daughter back, so she does all in her power to do so. I'd love if the finale was a huge battle at the castle where Lady Tremaine unleashed a bunch of magic and turns the castle guards into giant creatures and the castle gets destroyed. But when Lady Tremaine is defeated, the fairy godmother uses her magic to rebuild the castle to resemble the iconic Cinderella castle we all know and love from the animated movie, from the parks, and from the Disney Studios opening logo. And the castle comes together, a beautiful, old-school, haunting, choral version of Bippity Boppity Boo plays. I just think there's so much potential here, and they could really get into exciting territory to make an incredible movie that builds off the 2015 movie as well as the 1950 movie and the general legacy of Disney's Cinderella. So please, Disney, please, 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 do this. I'll take a Disney Plus miniseries if I must, but I really want more live-action Cinderella.
Whom they also sometimes call Cinderella.